What's goofing, goofballs? We finna get into some. Ooh, that was a good ass stretch, boy. Ooh, boy. We finna get into some animated stories, some confessions. One of the two. We finna just watch them, talk about it. Y'all let me know what's your deepest confessions in the chat, bro. Y'all let me know, bro. Y'all let me know what y'all taking to the grave. What y'all ain't never gonna tell nobody else. Nathan, anyone.
Ask Reddit, stating, "What is the most messed up thing you have ever done?" Initially, replies to this were filled with either obvious jokes or relatively tame confessions involving relationship drama. However, after about 30 minutes of the post being live, one user replied with a disturbing comment that stood out from the rest. It read, "I ran over a woman and her child in California in '96. I don't remember the specific city, but I'll never forget it was the intersection between Vanowen Street and Louis Avenue. I think the mom died, but I don't remember what happened to the kid. I got away scot-free, and I'm only telling this because the statute of limitations already passed." Now, it's not uncommon for people to just make up shocking stories on Reddit for attention. And at first this didn't look any different until another user did some digging and discovered an LA Times article from July of 1996 about what seemed like the same incident mentioned in the comment. That article, along with others from the time, not only confirmed the OP's claims, but also revealed the horrifying details of what actually happened that day. According to the reports, the victims of this incident were a 19-year-old girl named Ruby Moreno and her 1-year-old daughter. Ruby had taken her daughter to a nearby hospital on the morning of July 29 to treat a few minor cuts she got while playing. She stopped at a relative's house on Vanowen Street on her way back and was about to return home at around 10 p.m. But as she was attempting to get into her car on the driver's side, she heard a loud screeching noise from behind.
On the finale of You're the Credit One for Me, Janae finds her match.
Alex, you don't cancel your old car?
She looked back and saw a car barreling towards her at 100 miles per hour. According to other witnesses, this car had swerved to avoid hitting a van just seconds earlier, causing it to lose control. Seeing this, Ruby panicked and started running from the speeding car with her daughter still in her arms. Unfortunately, luck wasn't on her side that day. Before she could reach the sidewalk, she tripped into the street and was struck by the car moments later. The impact sent her flying over a parked car and onto the roof of another. The baby was also tossed several feet into the air before falling on the asphalt. Miraculously, the baby didn't receive any lethal injuries and was able to survive without any lasting damage to her body. Ruby, however, wasn't as fortunate. She was rushed to the hospital but succumbed to her injuries the same night. As for the driver that hit her, witnesses reported him trying to flee the scene, hitting another parked car and then a curb before successfully getting away. And from everything I could find, the perpetrator was never identified or arrested. So, if this Reddit user was telling the truth, there's a real chance he was the driver behind the brutal hit and run nearly 3 decades ago. The report from 1996 also mentioned that the driver was likely intoxicated due to the way he behaved after hitting Ruby. And when asked, the user admitted that this was the case. Were you drunk at the time, as the article says, or were they wrong about that?
I mean, he had to win. I ain't gonna lie. Statute of limitation is up though, but it's like, damn. Boy did some shit like this. He talking about it on Reddit. Feds track that junk down. They track your low down. They boom, kick your door. Straight shop is up. And also, you feel me? You know, I ain't gonna lie. Another reason I can't like put all my crimes out there like that, bro. Cause bro, with the feds nowadays, bro, they gonna see you, they gonna see you posted that, and then they're gonna calculate hey, how much time you supposed to get for murder of one person, and then like endangerment of a minor, right? They're gonna count all those charges up in the courtroom, and then they're gonna wait till you do something illegal that like combines to all of that, and then they're gonna come lock you up for that. Or they just gonna plant something on you. You know the American government, yo. They want you for saying they're gonna get you, turn. They're gonna get you. I mean, he ain't had killed somebody important to the government. Cause you know how the government move when it's about one of them. Definitely finna get you arrested next day. Next 30 seconds. Why when you had thought about hitting them? Oh, loud up. They won't let me out.
Inebriated, sure, more high than drunk. I was on a lot of junk back there. But the most disturbing part of his confession was just how cold and remorseless he seemed about the entire incident. Why no sympathy? Was this on purpose?
That's a sick.
No, but it's been so long. It's like a whisper of a memory. Do you think about how that child has to live without a mother now? Genuinely ask.
What's about a whisper of a memory, bro? Somebody come in there and whack his mom's. And then there's gonna be a whisper of a memory when she that shit. That's the type of people I hate, bro. You just some sick, nasty psycho dude. But it's like, bro, be you though. Cause don't come around me trying to be a nice guy. And you a sick psycho. Cause I'm gonna dab you up, I'm gonna shake your hand. Tomorrow you gonna kill me. What I do? I thought you was cool. That nigga not cool.
You seem stone cold. It's been 30 years. That child probably has children of its own. I seem stone cold because I've already been through all the stages of emotions. I've justified myself, I rotted with guilt, I've had sleepless nights. I'm an old man now and I'm waiting to die any moment. I can't change what I did. I can't even pay for my crime anymore because California doesn't send people to prison only on a confession, and regardless, my health alone would render me incompetent to stand trial. There's nothing tying me back to that day but my word. Which brings us to the big question, was the OP actually telling the truth? Unfortunately, the answer to this is a bit more complicated than it initially seems. For starters, his story does match an actual incident that happened back in 1996, right down to the exact intersection he mentioned in his confession. He also added several details that didn't seem made up, and even gave a reason for why he was finally willing to confess now, because the statute of limitations had long expired. That said, there also seems to be some potential inconsistencies. Some reports claim the driver was with another passenger, and that they actually fled on foot. However, the OP not only didn't mention any passenger, but also claimed that he still had the car. He even cited its damaged condition as the reason he became aware of the accident, writing, "What was your reaction to what happened? I was too hopped up on various types of drugs to notice. It was only the day after when I saw the dried blood on my bumper." This could point to the possibility that the OP wasn't behind Ruby's accident at all. He maybe stumbled upon the 1996 article online, memorized key details like the year and the street name to make it seem real, and then fabricated the rest of the story as users pressed him with more questions. All
It's like, damn, why you wanna be a nigga like that? Out of every story, it had to be the story you knocking off a mom's and hurting her kid. Is that, I ain't gonna lie, that's one reason I don't want to accept that boy made up that story like that. He stole the story and just like stole his own. It's like, why you want to be the weird nigga that whacked the moms and hurt her kid? Like, why you want to be that person? And then one give us a whole backstory time I was hopped up on you. That was blah 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 blah. 'Cause I don't know. I don't want to believe that some dude want to make some dude want to like make that a part of their lifestyle, but some do.
just to get some attention on the internet. But at the end of the day, we don't know. Although if he was telling the truth, several users have already alerted California authorities of his comments. In May of 2012, a Reddit user asked others to share a secret which, if came out, could ruin their lives. And while this post received over 44,000 comments in total, one chilling confession stood out above the rest. About 9 hours after the original post went up, a user replied with a haunting story of his own, reading, "I accidentally killed 7 people. I put a rag into a new water heater exhaust to keep debris out and installed it in a rental. I get a call a week later, there's been an accident. I show up and there's a ton of EMS and police. They ask me where the gas shutoff is, and I go down to shut the gas off and see the end of the rag I forgot sticking out of the top of the heater. Ripped the rag out, shut the gas off, and headed upstairs, only to be told all the tenants were dead. I drink all day now and sleep. It's killing me from the inside every single day, but if I say anything, my family is ruined. We have a bunch of rental properties and we'd be shut down."
I ain't gonna lie, what y'all doing? Damn, I ain't gonna lie, this hard as hell. It's hard as hell. Cause I don't know, bro. Damn, it will eat me alive. I ain't gonna lie. Why would he be drinking though? Cause damn, when I rarely, you feel me? I don't even think I do it. No, I don't even do it. But if I was to, you feel me, drink the forbidden juice, I feel as though it would make me like relive stuff. It would make me, you feel me? It would make me like think about shit more. All I want to think about the time that I may have knocked off 7 people. I don't know, bro. I don't know, bro. I don't know, bro. I think you I think you should just stop drinking because then you just go think about that more every time you drink. Oh my God, 7 people. That's just what I think. And also, am I snitching on myself? Oh, that's a lot of years. But I think if you're telling yourself, and it was an accident, then I think he should have left the rag in there. Damn, I think he should have left the rag where it was at. Damn, I ain't gonna lie. I think he should have just brought the cop with him to the thing. But anything, I think he should have left the rag where it was at, and then told on himself, "You the guy in the least amount of years." But then that's 7 people though. Ooh, nah, baby boy, you cook, you smoke turkey. That's nasty. That's nasty. That's nasty. That's nasty. That's nasty. Nah, I feel bad for bro. Either way, he cooked.
This reply caught the attention of thousands of other users who wanted more details on what exactly happened. Unfortunately for them, the account that posted this was a throwaway, and the OP didn't post a single comment after that, possibly to avoid incriminating himself any further. But when users didn't get the answers they were looking for from the OP, they began looking outward, and it didn't take long for someone to track down the news article talking about the tragic accident. According to these reports, the incident took place on December 16, 2006 in Kirksville, Missouri, where 7 victims, including 5 young adults and 2 children, passed away in their sleep due to carbon monoxide poisoning. However, while this part matched what the OP said in his comment, the conclusion the investigators reached was completely different. In his report, the police chief superheading the investigation stated that the heating system was functioning properly and was not the source of any problem. Instead, one of the victims' vans was left running in the closed garage. This generated a lot of carbon monoxide throughout the night, which slowly filled up the apartment and eventually ended up taking the resident's life. So, did the OP really get away with killing 7 innocent people because of his gross negligence? Sadly, the answer is not as clear-cut as many would hope. There are multiple possibilities, and any one of them could be true. For instance, if we assume that OP was telling the truth from his perspective, it's completely possible that the accident did have nothing to do with the heating system. But since the OP saw the rag stuck in the heater, he assumed it was his fault and has been blaming himself ever since. On the other hand, there's also a chance that everything unfolded exactly as the investigation concluded. OP just took this real accident and made up the story about him forgetting the rag for attention on Reddit. This would also explain why the police would let him casually walk into a potential crime scene without any supervision. We can even take this a step further and assume that the OP wasn't even the landlord and just read about the incident online. That all said, it's still completely possible this story is legit and that the rag was the cause of the deaths, or perhaps a combination of the van and the rag. The OP hasn't posted any new updates on his throwaway account in the last 13 years, so whatever the truth is, we may never know for sure.
Absolutely perfection.
On May 2nd, 2017, users on the Canada News subreddit came across a lengthy post titled, "Wanted for Kitchener Murder, My Side." This was a reference to a horrific murder that took place in Kitchener, Canada just a few days earlier. And to everyone's shock, this post was written by the prime suspect, Ager Hussein. He was still on the run but wanted to tell the internet what exactly happened on the night of the incident. However, what seemed like a desperate attempt to share his side of the story would later turn out to be a part of his plan to evade the consequences for his actions. Though, the events that led up to this started 15 months earlier in February of 2016, when 21-year-old Ager Hussein met 21-year-old Melinda Vasilier in Kitchener. The two quickly became infatuated with one another and began dating just weeks after their first encounter. However, while things went quite well for the first year or so, the two eventually started bickering and fighting with each other. This resulted in the two breaking up in April 2017 via text, and that's when things took a turn for the worst. Not long after their breakup, Ager attempted to break into Melinda's home through her patio, but was spotted by her friend Anna and her boyfriend. They also called the police on him, forcing him to leave Melinda alone. However, he kept texting her even after this incident, asking to meet her at least one last time. She eventually agreed and invited him to her home, hoping to talk things through and end the relationship on respectful terms. They decided to meet on the night of April 27th, but when the time came, Adria didn't show up. Melinda had asked her friend and sister to stay with her at home while Adria was visiting. However, since Adria was a no-show, she gave them the go-ahead to carry on with their night and the two left. They returned shortly after midnight, and to their surprise discovered that Adria had shown up while they were gone and was now in Melinda's room with her. The girls confirmed Melinda's safety before heading off again to get food. This trip took barely 30 minutes, but by the time they came back, things had somehow spiraled into a complete nightmare. The apartment was in complete disarray and there was
Shouldn't try to get a cookie. I don't know. I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. Too damn handsome. They give it up. Too damn handsome. Hold on. Hold on. Like I said, I'm too damn handsome. They give it up. But for him, oh, slide by again. Put your word. He didn't get it. She couldn't give it up to him. He ugly. So he had to try and force it. That's what I ain't gonna say that's what I think. I ain't what I think. I'm just making shit up.
no sign of Adria anywhere, and as they stepped further into the apartment, they found Melinda lying face down on the kitchen floor in a pool of blood with her body covered in dozens of wounds. They rushed in to check on her, but tragically, it was already too late. Melinda had no pulse. After composing themselves, they contacted the police and told them everything they knew, sparking a nationwide manhunt for Adria. However, despite days of searching, the investigators were unable to find anything about his current whereabouts. That is, until a post from Adria himself popped up on Reddit explaining everything that happened from his perspective. He opened his monologue by going over the history of his and Melinda's relationship, how they were perfect together, and that he was even planning on proposing to her before everything fell apart. After spending a bit more time going over the timeline of the relationship, he moved on to talking about the day of the incident. And according to him, this is what happened after Melinda's friend and sister checked up on them. We continued to talk and finally decided it was worth it to try one more time. Anna and her other friend left the house to grab food. We both let everything out and our relationship was back on track. As I'm getting ready to leave, she asked me if I had done anything with any other girls while we were on a break or any time we were on a break. I told her we needed to be honest and said yes and told her about it. She started freaking out, wouldn't say a word, just
Boy, I woulda lie. Boy, I woulda lie. Niggas always wanna be honest. You feel me? See, I'm honest. I'm always honest. But sometimes the honesty gotta be honesty at heart. Like during the break, I had sexual intercourse with other women. Yeah, I had sexual intercourse with other women. But you know what I didn't have with them? Real love for them. I ain't have real love for them. So you just gotta, I'll give you the real love truth. But that fake truth, I'm gonna keep it over there. Hopefully she's trying to stab him.
kept slapping me with tears in her eyes. Slaps turned into hits. I told her I was sorry, but if she didn't stop, I'd do something back. She didn't stop. I then stupidly pushed her, harder than I expected. She fell against the sink. This was the first time I ever did something physically violent towards her. I told her I was sorry. She said, leave now. I began saying sorry even more and asked if I could get a hug.
He should have left. He trying to hug and shit. He said, "Can we hug it out?" Nah, bro, get out. She's snagging me, man. See, I'm running outside. I ain't trying to get locked for beating somebody's ass. Not saying I'll beat her ass, but she can make anything up.
She was still crying. I go up to her to try and give her a hug. Almost out of nowhere, she grabs a knife by the sink. Initially, I thought she was just going to hold it to try and tell me to leave. She doesn't. She comes at me full force, aiming towards my face. I tell her to stop. She doesn't. I tried grabbing the knife but ended up cutting my hands. After a few cuts, I lost it. I freaked out. I was scared and in a state of shock. Never in 100 years did I think she would use a knife against me. Out of shock and fear, I grabbed one. I hit her with it, almost blindly, a few times. I didn't know what happened. I was confused, shocked, and scared. I had no intentions of that happening. When I left, I honestly thought she just passed out. Then I looked at the blood and started freaking out and just ran. I didn't know for sure she had died until the next day. I honestly had no intention of ever doing that to her. I was protecting myself. From there, he went on to talk about the amount of regret and sadness he was feeling for what happened to Melinda. He also expressed his shock over the news calling this a targeted attack. Now, on their own, these look like the words of a man desperately trying to clear his name after an accident, when in reality, every word in this post was carefully selected by Ager to make himself look as innocent as possible. For instance, he claimed that Melinda often slapped and hit him near the beginning of his story, so that it doesn't seem suspicious when he mentions it later. When, according to people who knew her, Melinda was extremely sweet and had no violent tendencies. Ager also
But y'all know how she be in the background. I don't know. I could seem like a sweet guy. I could seem more nice and sweet. But in the background, I'm Mike Tyson. Get it back. Get it back. Get it back. Get it back. Come on, bro. You can't think nobody's sweet because they tell you they sweet. We got see based on their actions. Don't wanna let me out. They won't let me out like that. They won't let me out, no. Well, yeah, you guys see based on their actions. I got locked in, bro.
downplayed the break-in attempt, claiming he merely visited her house to talk, and even left out the part about Melinda getting a restraining order against him following that incident. He also mentioned that he swung his knife just a few times in self-defense, when in reality, autopsy results showed a staggering 47 different wounds on her body.
I think, flip the story. I think he asked her if she was with anybody else, and she was like, "Was there some type of untruthness?" Yeah, and that's when he started getting mad. Yep. And then that's when whatever he had said she did, he had did it. But instead of him grabbing the knife in self-defense, like killing her, he just grabbed the knife and then just started going ham on. That's what happened. Boom, I solved the case. I'm him.
Luckily, by this point, the police knew that he crossed the border a few hours later and was now hiding in the US. And while it did take them a few weeks to pinpoint his location, they were eventually able to arrest and charge him with the murder of his once girlfriend. Further
Smackable face. See, look. The only hard thing, right, about smacking a face like this is if you have one slab. No, cause look. He has such a smackable face. Cause look, you can go like directly, side to side, right, like straight across. Boom. Ooh. Cause look at his head. He got a flick head. That's the type of body you want to have. Type A. He got. That's that Zion BBL body right there on his head. So what you do? What you do with a head like that? You don't know if you want to go smack it like this though. Like, ooh, but like this, it might not hurt that much because it's like it's a test. It's a test. Because you you're used to smacking like this. You just smacking like this, side to side. But ooh, the way it has shape, you want to try like this. You want to try like this, son. Like you high fiving him. You want to high five his head. You want ooh, I'm mad as hell. I don't get to high five his head. Cause look at his head, bro. I wanna meet his in the head, cuz. I wanna meet his in the head, cuz I'm mad, bro. Ooh. Oh, look at the circumference. Look at the circuiture. Somebody give me my gun.
Investigation also revealed other twisted methods he tried to seem more innocent, like sending a message to Melinda saying, "Nice seeing you tonight, glad we worked things out. Anyways, see you soon," hours after committing the crime. He stood trial on October 2023, where the jury concluded his motive boiled down to
that's why they say nice seeing you. What happened, brother, is if you would have said, "I'm sorry for what I did, but you left me no choice." Hey, come on, bro. Come on, bro. At least make a part of the story. You talking about nice change? No, it was nice seeing you, but you stabbed a nigga. I know it's got it locked in, bro. I'm sick.
If I can't have you, no one can. He was given a life sentence with the possibility of parole after 16 years. On June 7, 2019, a throwaway account made a post on the Confession subreddit claiming to be responsible for the deaths of several people. The post opened with the OP talking about his life goal 4 years ago, how he didn't get stuck in a 9-to-5 cycle, so he came up with a different business plan, selling substances. However, this really didn't work out as well as he'd hoped. He hated meeting people in person and was constantly afraid of someone finding out who he was and where he lived. But then he learned about a popular marketplace for illicit substances on the dark web and started using that to conduct business. Things were going well, and even upgraded from selling just 3 substances to shipping several much more potent options as well. Unfortunately, what started as a major boom for his business turned into a massive disaster when he accidentally sent the wrong items for a few orders, stating, "I put all my addresses into an Excel spreadsheet along with their name, zip code, order, along with the amount. At the time, I was selling some super white powdered meth. The fentanyl was also a white powder. Very similar consistency. Long story short, my Excel messed up or I messed up, and about 7 people's mail-in orders were filled in as fentanyl orders. They all went out. I didn't notice and kept doing my thing for a few days. After about 5 days, someone contacted me and told me their friend died from my medicine. I immediately called BS and went to check my order log and scale up how much I had of my medicine left. Well, I had about 11 grams more than I should have. I still don't know how it could have happened. I wasn't a user, but I definitely was high." Put simply, the OP accidentally sent a much harder substance to his customers. And while I can't mention its name on YouTube, it is known to be extremely lethal in even relatively small quantities. He later searched the names of these customers online and discovered that at least 5 of them had passed away due to his mistake. The sheer gravity of his actions prompted him to immediately abandon the drug trade and rebuild his life, stating, "I immediately deactivated my vendor account. I didn't even need confirmation. I knew what happened. I knew I just killed several people. I sold the rest of my drugs, converted my Bitcoin to cash, and moved away. Didn't speak to anyone for weeks. Found a job in a restaurant, living in a city I always wanted to. I haven't touched drugs since that day. I haven't had anything to do with that life since then." However, the OP ended the post by claiming that, despite getting as far away from his old life as he possibly could, the guilt of being responsible for so many lost lives still weighs heavily on him, and that the only reason he confessed everything on Reddit was to finally get it off his chest, hoping it might bring him some sense of relief. Now, whether this actually helped him feel any better or not is completely unknown. This was his first and last post from this account, and he hasn't posted any updates since. As for if he was actually telling the truth, that much is uncertain. It's near impossible for me to track down any news articles about his unfortunate customers, given that over 100,000 people every year lose their lives from that same substance. That said, many users in the comments believe the story was genuine.
Well, that bit was hard. That bit was hard. This video was hard. Yeah, let me know in the comments. Yeah, I answered that one question I asked y'all. I think it was in the second video about like, I don't even know if it was this video. I'm not sure. I think it might have been though. But if it was, it was like, imagine, let's say you do something wrong, right, and you get away with it. Would you admit you did it? Would you admit you did it? Would you admit you did it and get away with it? I mean, would you admit you did it and go to jail for it? Or would you go on about your life and get away with it? Yeah, let me know, bro. Like it's something bad, like you kill like 7 people. Ooh. Okay, better one. Let's say, right, you had contaminated people with some kind of virus, but somehow, let's say you was a scientist and you contaminated people with a virus, and then only way, because I mean like 5 people with a virus, and the only way for them to go back to normal, they would die in like 5 days. Only way for them to go back to normal is if you turn yourself in, but nobody knows who you were, nobody knows that you did it, but only you know. Would you turn yourself in to turn those people back normal? Yeah, let me know in the comments. But you going to jail though. You going to jail though. You getting life. And then let's say it was in North Korea that you did it too. You gonna get beat. All that. You going to the worst jails, worst everything. You gonna get whacked, dude. Or you letting those 5 people die. You let me know. In GTA.